All right, next we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting complex numbers. And you're going to find this concept really easy and familiar with whenever we talk about adding and subtracting like terms. But before we get into adding and subtracting, let's look at the rules here. So let me exit out of this for a second and get to, here we go. Let's move this down. All right, so how to add or subtract complex numbers. To add two complex numbers, add their real number parts and add their imaginary parts. Okay? And then to subtract one complex number from another, subtract their real number parts and subtract their imaginary parts. So, with this example, basically we are combining like terms, okay? Bringing together our parts. Combine like parts. So our first question, add 4 minus 8i plus 7 plus 5i. Well, we're going to combine our like parts. Our real number part, 4 and 7. Our imaginary part, we have here negative 8i plus 5i. Then add 4 plus 7. We have here what? 11. And then negative 8i plus 5i, which gives us minus 3i. And that's all we can do. This is written in standard form. There's nothing else that we can do here. Now with subtraction, remember, anytime that you have a minus sign in front of a parenthesis, it means we're going to distribute that negative to both of those terms. So before we can combine like parts, let's distribute the negative. So let's bring down the 3 plus 3i, distribute the negative. We have negative 9, and then we have positive 7i. Then combine like parts. 3 minus 9 plus 3i plus 7i. 3 minus 9 gives us negative 6. And then 3i plus 7i, 10i. Another example of subtraction. We have 3 minus the square root of negative 2 minus 8 plus the square root of negative 32. Well, first of all, let's go ahead and find the square root of these negative radicals. So the square root of negative 2, take out the negative 1 factor. We're taking the square root of negative 1, which is I. The square root of 2 stays under the radical sign. So square root of negative 2i is I square root of 2. The square root of negative 32. Take the negative 1 factor out. We're going to list factors of 32. That is a 3. Make sure this is a 3. Okay. So we have here, what times what? 8 times 4. Break down 4, 2, and 2. Break down 8. We have 2 times 4, and we're going to break down 4, 2, and 2. So we have square root of -1, which is I. Take the square root of 32. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 2's. And circle your pairs. So we're going to bring out 2 2's. And then outside the radical, we have I times 2, which is 4I. And then we have under the radical the square root of 2. So now we've completed those square roots that have where we have the negative numbers under the radical sign. So here we go. Let's rewrite this part with the new simplified version of the square root of the negative numbers. We have 3 minus I square root of 2 minus 8 plus 4I square root of 2. All right, so because we have this minus sign, we're going to have to distribute the negative to the second parenthesis to each of those terms. So we have, let's bring down the first term, 3 minus I square root of 2. Then we have minus 8 and then minus 4I square root of 2. We're going to next combine like parts. The 3 minus 8. And we have the negative I square root of 2 minus 4I square root of 2. Subtract 3 and 8. We have negative 5. Now, this last part, the imaginary part, well, we have radicals after that. That's okay. This just happens to bring the concepts of like radicals with bringing together with the imaginary unit. But we're going to look at the negative I and the minus 4I. That would give us minus 5I. And remember, with like radicals, we keep the radical. So this is our solution. Now remember, this negative 5 is the real number part. And the last term, that's the imaginary part. So we do not add or subtract this negative 5 and this negative 5I. They're not like. They're not like terms. They're not like parts. Okay, so we are finished with that example.